You are listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast, a show by personal trainers for personal trainers. It's time to become a better trainer, get more clients, and change more lives. And now, here's your host, the head coach and founder of Fitness Mentors, Eddie Lester.
Hey guys, welcome to Fitness Mentors Certified Personal Trainer Podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Lester, and I'm super excited to welcome a guest today. I am with Ryan Dunn. He is a Fitness Mentors Certified Personal Trainer from Linton, Indiana. Ryan, how you doing?
Doing good today, Eddie. Thanks. How are you?
Awesome. Doing great. So you and I have been talking a little bit lately, kind of about your, we'll say, your start in getting certified and then moving towards starting your own business. And now you're looking to more move full time in your business. So I wanted to kind of have you on and just get our listeners a taste of what, your journey has been like, and kind of really just get to know a little bit about, what it kind of takes to go from certification to starting your own business. So I guess you mentioned earlier a little bit about your journey, kind of getting, we'll say, started with certification and moving into that. I guess maybe talk to me a little bit about your choice to go with Fitness Mentors, as well as your kind of journey through that certification process. I guess we kind of start there.
Well, I'll tell you, let's start from ground zero so you can kind of understand the why. Mm-hmm. It was about, let's see, this is 2025, 2022, been on a family vacation. And I had come up from the beach, and the condo we were at was kind of a strange beast. The bathroom was an octagon shape. And I'd never seen myself from the side before. And at the time I had this big bushy beard. I had dropped the beard, bent over, looked up, and I was terrified. And I immediately went back down to the beach and asked my wife, and I said, "Hey, why did you not tell me that I looked so bad?" And of course she played the good wife role and rolled her eyes. And, she's like, "You're ridiculous." Well, I decided I had to do something. I mean, and I had flirted around with keto, Atkins, all those things, and nothing worked. And my cousin's wife had just recently got certified as a personal trainer. Awesome. And the workouts were never the problem. I was always, in the guy, we were slinging the weight around. And, on the weekends, there might have been some overindulgence and some sudsy drinks. And I never did get the nutrition dialed in. So I had this great talk with my cousin's wife, Shauna Steele, and she explained to me caloric deficit. And it resonated. All these other things never did. This did. And it made sense. I'd done this deep dive into it, and the pounds started falling off. And then it clicked. If I can do this, anybody can. But I wanted to put some legitimacy behind it. And I was thinking, I need to be, I need a certification. And I started Googling, and you guys come up. I thought you were reasonably priced. It was online. And so I went into it, got my certification, and I started part-time here in my home. I turned my basement into a full gym.
Awesome.
I started piece by piece. So, I'm very grateful for the first couple of clients who, they bared with me. And then all the money I was making, I just poured back into equipment.
Awesome. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I have a fully stocked basement gym. There's nothing that I can't replicate in the gyms around town.
Very cool.
Yeah. And my stuff's clean. I clean it. I take care of it.
I love it.
And it's been huge. So I lost 50 pounds.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. In 2.5 years, one bit at a time. They say 1 pound a week safe. And, there were a couple of weeks that was 4 pounds. There was a couple of weeks there was none. And then there was a week or two where it went up 2 pounds, which is frustrating. But if you stay the course, it all works out. So, and I take this philosophy, and for the ones, for the people who come to me and, they want to lose weight, and I teach them how to do this and how to weigh and track their food, and it works. There's no secret, it's no trade secret. But a lot of people need accountability, and that's what I'm here for. And I've got some pretty good stories about that, people hiring for accountability if you're interested.
No, we could definitely get into that as we go along.
Sure.
No, I love that journey. I feel like a lot of personal trainers do start in a very similar situation of with their own health. That's something that we notice a lot with our students. And I love that you went pretty quickly into starting your own business. Tell me a little bit about the business that you started. It looks like it's a 250N or 250 North Fitness.
Yeah, it stands for 250 North Fitness.
Mhm.
I wanted to help people.
Mhm.
Once I saw that the weight was falling off, and I did kind of change the way that I worked out. Right, I got away from trying to bench press cars and trucks to
Mhm.
more aesthetically pleasing type exercises in the rep ranges, and that's the one thing that I wish everybody could see. Part of that certification in the fitness mentor stuff, because it breaks it down. It's interesting. Like, you can lift to be strong, but it
Mhm.
doesn't translate into looking good, right?
Yeah.
So we can lift in that, the hypertrophy range, that 10 to 12 rep range. We get in the caloric deficit. Now we start looking good. And
Mhm.
so that's what happened to me. I traded off how I trained,
Okay.
and never looked back. And then I'm like, okay, I can package this. This
Mhm.
works. So I got the certification, and then I needed a name. And of
Mhm.
course, I thought, over and over and over, and everything was done. And it just kind of hit me one day that I actually have a county road, 250 North,
Mhm.
that runs right into my driveway. It's
Okay.
I'm house in 250 North, and I'm like, well, there's no better way to finding me than that.
I love
So
that.
yeah, I ran.
Geographical name. I love that. That's
Yeah,
smart. Yeah.
so I ran with that, and then I kind of had some fun with my gym decor.
Mhm.
Um,
No,
I
I love the branding. That's an awesome logo you have in the background. The font looks great. Looks awesome.
so that's by design. That's a Viking font,
Oh,
and
it is. Oh, yeah, nice. Mhm.
yeah. So funny story. A couple years ago, I had taken a DNA test,
Mhm.
and I thought for sure it was going to come back like 200% Irish. No denying it.
Mhm.
When it come back, almost 60% Scandinavian.
Okay, yeah. Mhm.
Huge dive into the Viking folklore, right?
Love
And
it. Love it. Yeah.
just ran with it. At the top of the N, it's a Viking symbol for
Okay.
north,
Mhm.
off of the Viking compass. And
Awesome.
obviously, the ravens are big in, Norse
Mhm.
mythology. And I got a couple of shields hanging up around. I got an axe or two hanging from my gym. So
That's awesome. Leaning into the heritage, the geography. I know that's great. That's awesome.
yeah, so I went all in on the name. The logo kind of come to me. It's actually funny. I have a degree in graphic arts that
Oh,
I
okay.
have.
Oh, no way. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
I haven't used in years.
Yeah.
That's a cutthroat industry. I
Mhm.
fell out of that pretty quick.
Mhm.
Um, and then for the last 17 years, actually, I've been working for the DoD in one way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Worked 11 years as a contractor, 7 years as government.
Mhm.
And just last Monday, I got to the point where I was done.
Okay. Mhm.
Now, there's a lot of anguish behind that decision. It was a very
Mhm.
comfortable job. I
Mhm.
was paid well. But it just got to the point where the dread was
Mhm.
setting in, right?
Okay.
I'm very fortunate to have a supportive wife.
Mhm.
She kind of sees my mental state day in and day out,
Yes, absolutely.
and she can see those. So I was working 10 hours a day for the government,
Yeah.
and then after I'd get off work, I've got 3 clients a night.
Awesome. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and I have been booked solid that way for 2.5 years.
Wow,
And
that's great. That's awesome. Mhm.
yeah, and I have a wait list. And I just kept thinking, what if, why not me?
Mhm.
And so she sees the two sides. She sees the guy who just wasn't happy
Mhm.
in the date 9 to 5, so to speak. But then she saw the guy who would, comes upstairs after the last client leaves, and I kind of have a grin on my face, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm helping people. And seeing a light bulb go off in people, you know,
Mhm.
whether that be, hey, I lost 2 pounds this week, or, we increased some weight, or even getting form down on an exercise.
Yeah.
Um, that's, that's been a big thing. The
Mhm.
journey has been amazing. And the business side of it, I'll tell you, I got wrong in the beginning.
Okay. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you about that. We at Fitness Mentors, we really aim to help trainers start their own business. I feel like that's one of the most rewarding, as well as most lucrative, as well as most most financially stable long term, as far as the type of, we'll say, work to do with a personal training certification. Talk to me a little bit about your kind of business journey. I know you're just getting into it, but talk to me about your journey. Fitness mentors impact in that journey. I'd love to hear about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, the fitness mentors, the section on starting your own business, from the simple stuff to an LLC, which I did,
Awesome.
immediately,
Mhm.
to creating a brand and then finding your place, niche, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And there's where I'm going. I got that wrong.
Okay.
So I am in a very small community, town of about 5,000 people.
Okay. Yeah.
Linton, Indiana is a small school football powerhouse.
Awesome.
These kids who play are amazing athletes. They play both ways,
Mhm.
which is unheard of. In the bigger things that we see, you got your offense, defense, but these kids are playing both ways. They've got a great coaching staff. They have a great weightlifting facility.
Mhm.
But in my head, somehow or another, I got the idea that there was probably going to be a handful of boys who were close to getting to playing, who were close to breaking through to that barrier, who might
Mhm.
need some extra work in the gym. And so, I have all these things and plans on how I'm going to tackle that, because if you look on, lots of people send their kids, we play travel softball, volleyball, baseball, and basketball. The entrance fees to even join a team could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
Mhm.
People will spend, you probably spend $1,000 a weekend on travel, hotels, and
Wow. Yeah.
meals,
Mhm.
and that's what parents are doing to give the kids in those sports an edge.
Mhm.
So I thought, I'm going to be that guy to help these football players get the edge.
Yeah.
Never got the first one.
Okay.
my, my business has been 90% female clients, and I never saw it coming.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
Not in a million years. Um, I've leaned into it. I love training ladies. They
That's
come in,
awesome.
no preconceived notions. There's no
Mhm.
egos,
Mhm.
and it's fantastic. And it's not lost on me that the trust that their families, husbands
Mhm.
have, placed in them and in me. Funny side note, Bar, that, when this first went down, I was telling my wife, I'm like, if you come home and telling me, you're hiring a trainer, I kind of like, okay. And then you tell me that, it's a guy. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you're telling me you're going to go to his house and train in his basement. Come on. Now I'm going with you. I want to check this out, right? I want to make sure you're coming home, kind of a thing. So I'm still amazed to this day. And
Mhm.
I have met some fantastic people. A lot of times I'll start out training the wife,
Mhm.
and they like it so much, they start nudging the husband.
Yeah. Awesome.
And
Mhm.
one of the cool things that I've done is I've started packaging, lack of better terms, like a couples
Yeah. No,
training.
that's awesome.
Husband and wives training together is awesome. I'd
Mhm.
love to see the dynamic. Some are more competitive than others,
Mhm.
right? I laugh because I want to be a fly on the wall later, when they're at
Yeah.
home discussing, hey, you got the better of me, and that kind of a thing. So, I don't know what to say. I'm blessed.
Mhm.
Um, but that's the part I got wrong. So it's funny how that all played out.
Yeah. Well, I love that. It's kind of almost like your niche chose you, which I love
It
that.
really did.
Mhm.
It really, really did. Now
Mhm.
I've got an ultra marathon runner I'm training.
Oh,
The
awesome.
guy, yeah, the guy's training for a 100-mile race,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
this guy's motor's second to none.
Mhm.
And it's fun because I really get to create some stuff for him to aid his running, right?
Mhm.
So his program looks different than
Yeah.
everybody else's. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's one of the keys to being a good personal trainer is you can't cookie cut
Mhm.
fitness. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody has likes, dislikes, and of course, physical elements that may or may not slow them down.
Mhm.
Um, I've trained people who said, "Hey, I got enough weightlifting in high school, and never want to see another weight again.
Yeah.
What else do you got?" Like, well, welcome to the world of high intensity interval training, right? And then, so what happens there is, like in your training, you mentioned, um, if you've got a client for 3 months, you're doing pretty good.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I figured out is some people just want to train with me for about 10 sessions. I show them all the things that they can do. And then here's your Amazon cart, go buy this. And now you can continue your journey at home.
Yeah.
Right. So I love being able to do that for people, because they have the accountability. They're ready to go. They just don't know what to do.
Okay.
So we do those things and they'll reach out to me, and some will come back every couple of months. What else you got? And then they continue to add to their home gym. And I love that.
That's awesome.
So with all that being said, here we are. On May 5th, I start the journey of going full time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's I'm sure there's some fear there. I'm sure there's some anxiousness around that commitment. But I really feel like it's such a great risk to take, especially when you, like you mentioned, the passion for what you do and kind of dreading the corporate life, and then moving more into something that's yours, that's your own, and really working on that sort of full time. I guess kind of when you think about some of the most important elements of what's helped you to move in your journey. So for about 2.5 years, you've been a trainer. What's kind of led you? What's been the most inspiring thing to move towards starting your business and committing to it full time? But also from a perspective of advice for other personal trainers out there. Talk to me a little bit about that sort of journey.
So getting certified through Fitness Mentors gave me the legitimacy that I was looking for. Awesome. One of the things that I do when I have a separate office, I bring potential clients in for a free consultation. We talk about their goals, what I can offer, and then always point up to the wall behind me. Hey, I'm legit. I passed the test. Even though Indiana doesn't require any kind of certification to do it, I wanted it.
Awesome.
And, your program was great. Loved every second of it. The thing that keeps me going, I tell you what, I love all my clients. They're great. Each one's different. But last summer, I had a high school friend reach out to me, and his stepson was getting ready to join the Army. And, he very carefully told me, we're not dealing with a whole lot of athleticism. Kid wasn't an athlete, didn't do anything physically, but he had this dream. He's like, how long would it take to get him ready? And I was like, I think if I had 12 weeks, I could get him ready. And he says, you've got 7. Okay. So first thing I did was I dived into, done my research. And the big thing with the Army now is they have the Army Combat Fitness Test. And it is I love what they do. It's not just running and pull-ups anymore. We've got sprint, drag, and carry. They have a particular way of doing hand release push-ups. So brought this kid in. What a great kid, super shy. And I remember our very first training day. He made it about 20 minutes into the session. And he laid down. And keep in mind, I backed way, way off because I knew I was dealing with a rookie, right? But they were just talking about, he hadn't done anything physical. And he's laying down on the ground. He kind of turned pale on me. And I propped him up. We had some Gatorade. And he's like, he apologized profusely. He's like, I just wasn't ready. I don't know if this is for me. And I looked at him and, I said, listen, we're going to look back on this moment. We're going to laugh. We're going to have a good laugh over this. I promise. I'm like, don't give up. Keep coming. Right. And to the kid's credit, man, he did.
Awesome.
He kept coming. We built up. His first day, he couldn't do 3 push-ups.
Wow.
Right. And then about 2 weeks into the training, I went ahead and I just wanted to see where we were at on this fitness test. And I replicated it, scored him, and he failed by about 100 points.
Okay.
All right. So we had about 5-6 more weeks. We went intense. We went 3 or 4 days a week, and I replicated it, and the kid passed by 100 points.
I love it.
We went from 3 push-ups to 23.
Awesome.
His power toss, which was a 10-pound med ball, we put 12 feet on that thing.
Great.
And his credit, he took the running up on his own.
And Awesome.
He would check in with me on that because, one thing I'm not a runner, and I told him that up front. And the cool thing is that young man finished boot camp a couple months ago. They threw that test at him 4 times, passed it all 4 times.
I love it.
Right?
That's a great story. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was a lot of fun because it was something different. And, and then I had these metrics that were presented to me. We've got to be able to do this, and this. Got it. And now was the training very varied? No. No, there wasn't much, because we wanted to focus on passing this test.
I love it. Yeah.
Everything that I built for him was strictly to pass the test.
Yeah. Well, that goes into a lot of athletic training too. When you think about certain sports and the demands of certain sports,
Right.
when you focus on specific elements that benefit a athlete in that specific sport, that's a great training program and can definitely help. I love that.
Yeah, and that was my next venture, are the athletes. My summer schedule is starting to fill up. I got some kids that are reaching out.
Awesome.
And I look forward to that. I've done my research. I know how I want to train them. I've had great success with a young lady who pitches at a junior college.
Awesome.
I've trained her for 2 years, and this spring has been her coming out party. She pitched a wonderful game last week, 9 strikeouts, 2 hits.
Nice.
She's killing it. And then at one point in time, she had, I think it was the 3rd fastest pitch in the division. I take no credit for softball skills, but we worked hard on strength and conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mom reaches out to me all the time. It's
transferable fitness. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. She reaches out to me all the time, and I tell you, this brings me to the next thing. Another reason why I'm doing this, in 2.5 years of part-time work, I've the job satisfaction's off the charts.
Okay, awesome.
17 years, let's just say my entire adult career. I worked for the DoD 17 years, and then all the jobs before that. Can't compare to what you receive back from clients.
Absolutely.
I
completely agree. That's the reward. Absolutely.
To get a text from a teenage girl's mom saying that I've worked wonders with her and she's got her self-confidence back because she's always had body issues. She's like, you have no idea what you mean to her. And I'm just like, wow, what do you do with that?
Take it straight to heart and then use it as motivation. I love that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's one of those things, get you in the fields a little bit.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
there's nothing in the corporate world that compares to that.
Yeah. I mean, the humanism and the human connection that you develop as a trainer. Yeah. I mean, that's why you're in the place you're at, because you've worked to build your business. You've, helped clients. You've gotten that motivation from your clients to then just continue to press forward and grow your business. I guess kind of as we think about wrapping it up, I guess what would you? There's maybe 3 questions I have. What would you what advice would you give to someone thinking about becoming a personal trainer? We'll go with that one first.
So obviously listen to pay close attention to everything in your training. And I'm going to hit on that again. Your section on starting a business was fantastic. So let's nail that down first. Let's get your LLC. And just like you guys had mentioned with, I even use the same insurance that you guys pointed out.
Awesome.
Philadelphia insurance, right? Let's get all that set. I think the big thing for me was I was very, very fortunate I knew a girl, a woman who she's trained on and off her whole life. She's been in great shape. And I knew she had been working with her trainer and wasn't exactly pleased. His style was way different, which we won't get into that here. But I reached out to her and I said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'll slash the price. We'll call it an experiment, if you will.
So, and this was as you were thinking about becoming a trainer?
Yeah. This was what let's see what we can do. And she's fantastic. man, she's a grinder.
Mm.
And the key to getting the repeat business, I think, we can post videos all day long, reels, and everybody's doing the same thing.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the kind of thing. I'm no good at the social media part of it.
Mm.
Right. Because I'm not going to, no one wants to see me work out. No one wants to see me do a voiceover. I tell you what, the people want to see, they want to see it before and after.
Yeah. Love that.
Get you a client, make them a fantastic deal, but just make sure they're all in.
Yeah.
And this gal we trained her a different way. She took off with the living in the caloric deficit. She tracked and she weighed her food, and
Awesome.
her journey, within a year and a half, she'd lost 40 pounds.
Wow, that's great. Mm.
And I was lucky enough that she would post her pictures.
Mhm.
Right. And if it's not for her, I don't get that leap. I don't get that first start, because then other ladies are like, hey, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
Well, go talk to my guy. Right. So I think that's key. Get that one person and consider them an investment. Right. And, charge them next to nothing. Get them in there 3 to 4 times a week, and document the journey, because I think that's what people want to see.
No, I love that. And that's when we think about trainers starting or thinking about getting clients, it is really, and I actually have the exact same story about training my sister-in-law for 12 weeks and her having a great result and giving me the confidence, but then also giving me an opportunity to share a great transformation with other people. So
Right.
I love that as advice for people getting started in those sort of elements. I guess, how would you say that Fitness Mentors has helped your journey, if you were to summarize that?
Well, it launched it, period.
Mhm.
Right. I don't take that training, I'm not here, because I wouldn't even know where to start. Right. I would have got frustrated with, trying to figure out how to start the LLC. I would have typical me, I would have overthought the insurance. Right. You guys laid all that out. Right. And you laid out, I love the training. I knew most of the body, but we got into some parts that you're like, oh, that's what that's called. Right. kind of a thing. And, I do occasionally go back and review. It's nice to have. Right.
Awesome.
So it's been huge, for me. And, when I have time, I think a lot of your podcasts were normally during my workday.
Yeah.
Right. So I couldn't see what else was going on in the world. But it's crazy to think here I am on your podcast now.
I love it. No, that's I mean, sharing a success journey like yours is something that we are. I mean, that's what we live for. The ability to help trainers, we'll say, increase their education as well as get started. That's what we grab a lot of our motivation from. And having you on is extremely awesome to hear and really hear from trainers that are going through our program, how it's really impacted them. So thank you for that.
So, you can take any kind of training and learn about the body. That's one thing. But like I said, what you guys have in print got the business side started.
Awesome.
And
I love that.
it's worth every cent for me, because it really made the difference, because I couldn't even mess it up. It was laid out for me, I had a path forward. I mean, you covered it all, like even the brand logos and, fantastic. I think anybody, looking at it should just click, put it in your cart, and let's get it over with and get started.
Love it. And I guess final question: where do you see your business going over the next 6 to 12 months? I'd say.
So the interesting thing for me as I build this schedule will be how do I, what's the hours in a week, that I'm going to be working, and building. The tough part about being a personal trainer is working around everybody else's schedule.
Yeah.
Right. So what I hope to have going over like this summer is filling my client base with athletes, because the kids are off school and can fill those lulls in the afternoon. Now I've got I'm already starting to think about what happens in the fall when the kids go back to school. So I put together a workout and I'm calling it Silver Fit.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to do is get the senior citizens, and I don't even like to use that term, something more of a gentle fitness,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
That we can, bring a buddy, bring a buddy, you get a discount, and then we'll train together, and work on the basic things like, you got to be able to get out of a chair, right? Because as we age, our balance and our motor skills all go. And so that's kind of thing that I'm working on, hoping,
so kind of diversifying your niche, you're diversifying your niche.
Yeah. And then, as much as, like I said, I'm not a social media guy, but, I will spend 10, 15 minutes a night seeing what's on Instagram, what's going on. And, is there anything I can take from that? What's new in the industry? And if there's anything I can do to build from that, I'm going to. I would like to start. The next thing I'm going to release tonight will be an extreme fitness kind of a thing. There are plenty of people work out, but it's like, when's the last time you really got your rear end kicked? Right. Yeah. Right.
I love it.
I love that's my absolute favorite thing is designing a workout. I've told some of my clients and friends, give me one object and I'll make a workout.
Yeah, I love that.
That's like, how about a toothpick? And I'm like, I set it down on the floor, started, the lateral jumps over it. Then, we just things like that, and that's the best part, and that's another thing, occasionally I get people in who they know what they're doing, but they're like, I need something different,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, I'll sell them a workout plan.
I love that. Awesome, Ryan. Well, no, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your journey. It really sounds like this is something that's been life changing in a way, based on the way you've been talking. So, no, it's I guess kind of going into it. Maybe final thought. As you kind of have made your transition now, you're moving more full time. What advice might you have for trainers that are moving into maybe more of your situation, that full time?
I would say I got some advice from an employer a long time ago. And he told me, never go into a partnership. If you can't do it alone, it's not worth doing. And what I mean by that is I personally would never want to work for a box chain gym. Invest in yourself.
I love that.
Right. So I know not everybody's got the room, but figure out a way. Even if you have to throw up one of those, smaller buildings that you see in these lots, right? You be your own boss. Do things, the right way, your way. Hopefully those mesh correctly. But the best, I get to walk down 13 stairs to start my workday.
That's awesome.
It's a dream, right? And the fact that people are trusting me with their fitness, there's all the motivation I need.
I love that. Awesome, Ryan. Well, it was a pleasure having you on. I know a lot of the trainers out there and people listening got a lot of great insight into your journey, as well as can apply it to where they're at, and thank you so much for choosing Fitness Mentors and allowing us to be a part of your journey. I think that's super important.
Well, I appreciate everything. Your training's great, and thanks for having me on today.
As always, thanks for listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast. You can learn more about Fitness Mentors at fitnessmentors.com. Be sure to share this podcast on social media. And remember, we are here to help you succeed.